Hey everybody, this is Rosie for the Spectral Sailor. I have some guest hosts on tonight. Jason wasn't feeling good, so sadly he's not going to be on tonight. Maybe he'll join us when he gets up to go to work tonight if he feels better. He might comment in the comments or something, but we have Adam, guest host, and
Hello,
Nick,
everybody.
the infamous Nick Muley, who's on a lot of other shows on Paranormal Network. And then our special guest is Keith Evans.
Hey,
And he has different paranormal stuff he's going to tell us. And we're going to talk about his book. Can y'all hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay,
Yeah, I
because
can
there's
hear
like a loading sign for some reason. I got a little loading circle. I want to make sure I'm not out. So we're going to talk about his book and see who's in here for comments. Because it says there's several people watching, but I don't see any comments yet.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
no.
haven't seen anything yet either. Been watching.
I did that. Okay. Huh?
No, honestly, I've been looking too. So so far,
There
7
we go.
people are watching.
Liz
Yep.
says, hi, Keith.
hello.
We're going to pick his brain and see why he decided to write a book about paranormal stuff, what experiences maybe that he might want to, without giving too much away, that he might want to talk about or touch on that the book is about. And I know it's about a specific location, so we might ask him about that. Did something that happened there inspire you to write the book, maybe? Like something that happened at that house specifically?
No, I'd always noticed a house when I was in town, Apalachicola, Florida, and I had done paranormal research in other parts of the town at businesses where I knew that the owners and the people that worked at the business had lived at the Hayes house. So that's the reason why I wanted to do paranormal research there. And then when I started doing paranormal research and seeing that there is about 7 or 8 ghosts or spirits that from the Buck family, the first family that built the Hayes house in 1908, and also ghosts of spirits from the Hayes family who were there to protect it and make sure the house would continue on for future generations. I thought this would be a nice book. This would be, a nice situation to write a book about. I will say one thing, your book will sell better if it's less expensive. And when you self-publish, the more pages you have, they pass that cost on to the reader. So my book is 430 pages, and a lot of people, they think a while before they buy a book that's 430 pages. I think if I would have shortened it and just put the highlights from the best chapters in, and give less statistics and less data that I received, I think it would have been a better seller. Because $23 during the COVID virus is hard for people to part with. And I don't have too many millionaires that even take time to think about paranormal. If anything, they'll say, oh, I don't believe in that, So it's the working class that takes interest in it and is going to be the future for paranormal research. So I would say to anyone who writes a book, try to keep it, between 100 to 200 pages, because my book is like $23. And, a lot of people have to think before they part with that. And they're going to buy something they can afford. If you can keep your book maybe half that amount or below 200, it'd probably sell for maybe 15, maybe even 10. So that would be a word to the wise. But I really enjoyed doing the Hayes house, and I saw the love that the ghosts and spirits had for the Hayes house, even long after they had passed away, that I just didn't want to leave anything out. I really felt like it was important to include everything. I would have felt bad if I cut a chapter just to keep the number of pages down. But I will say one thing, it was the best experience I ever had in paranormal research because there were so many ghosts and spirits that really cared about the place. I mean, I'm also an empath, even though my empath abilities aren't enough to really just use that alone. I always have to use equipment like my millimeter that detects temperature change and any change in electromagnetic energy, and also my Obelisk 5B, which theoretically ghost or spirit are supposed to use their energy to choose words from the Obelisk 5B, and also the flare thermal imager. For a ghost to attempt to manipulate something or to materialize, it is believed that they will take remove energy from the environment. And by doing that, the area should get colder. Now, the ghost might be a very small pocket of energy. So catching this cold spot, it might be small, even to air eyes, and it may be very quickly. Most cold spots, you look to see it, then you look back to verify it, and it's gone.
Yeah, we've used FLIR before. I do like how it works and then how SLS works. Sometimes SLS does map something. Like I've noticed SLS will always map a fan. Like, a fan that blows air. It will always map a fan.
Right.
I'm sure it has something to do with electronic magnetic field, something like that. That's put off by a fan or the makeup of it or whatever, I don't know, but it always goes off and shows a stick figure where there's a fan at, or like it might even show like, a sitting down figure or like a bending over figure where there's a fan at.
Right. I've never used that, but I've always wanted to. But since I retired in 2016, there's always been a financial situation which took my money and I got little return on it. Like Hurricane Michael, everything, all my paranormal equipment, all my personal gear, most of my clothes got washed away. And of course, writing the book was expensive. Between two companies that I had, publishing companies, it was about $3,000 to write the first book. So if you can find a cheaper way, go for it. It seems like the self-publishing people want their money up front, but they don't help advertise or anything. And sometimes even the distribution is slow, and people order your book, and it takes maybe 3, 4, 5 days to get it. So that's kind of disappointing. I say, what else? Oh, I had kidney failure January 1st of 2017. And even though I have 2 insurances from being retired from the federal government and the Army Reserves, you get charged top dollar, and you have to pay something. Everything they do to you, every different lab, every different medication, there's a certain co-payment and a certain deductible. So I think $13,000 was close to what I had to pay out of pocket. But I was in the hospital for about 45 days. So at first they didn't expect me to live, but I did. What's that again?
I said, did you get to use VA coverage too, or like veteran coverage also for some of it?
Do I get to use what?
Veterans coverage or VA coverage for some of it?
For the I have TRICARE through the Army Reserves. I didn't go to the VA. I wasn't close to the VA. If I'd have been close to the VA, I don't think I'd have been charged anything. But
I don't think so.
I would have to live over near Gainesville probably because certain hospitals don't always take care of every type of patient. So I don't live close to Gainesville at all.
What state do you live in? Sorry, Florida?
Florida.
Yeah. That's like meeting a lot of people in Florida. That's weird. Maybe I should move to Florida. That's a sign. I'm supposed to move there.
Where are you at now?
Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
A big difference.
Or
I don't
Texas.
think I've ever been to Oklahoma.
Have you not?
Neither have I. Never been to Oklahoma either.
Have you not? Are you guys going through there to get to Kansas? Nick?
Yes. Sorry, what was the question?
Are you guys gonna? I don't know if y'all have to go through here. Y'all have another route probably. Are you going?
No, because Jeremy, he's driving. He's gonna. Looks like we're meeting him in the town of Peoria, Illinois, which is about two hours west of Chicago, and we're gonna meet up with. My parents are driving me first, and I'm meeting up with him, and then we're gonna take the road down to southern Illinois through Missouri into Kansas.
Yeah. So does it cost a lot to come up with images or an artist to make a cover for your book in the back and the front or the insides where it tells about you and stuff like that? Does that cost quite a bit in the grand scheme of the whole entire cost of making the book?
I really don't know. If I knew at one time, I don't remember. So a lot of times they do package deals and they tell you what they will do. And
yeah.
So for the front cover, they just asked me what I wanted, and I told them I wanted not scary, but a professional look to it. And they sent me samples and said, which one do you like? And I got to choose from the three they sent. So you get a chance like that to make a decision on what your cover will look like. I always liked, they say anything blue is soothing, and people are more apt to buy something if it's a color that makes them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So I try to get as much blue into the background as possible.
I would agree with that, and I think I actually tend to use a lot of blue and stuff too most of the time, like banners or any art projects. I tend to use blue too. I think blue is a calming color. What does this say? Mike here from American Ghost Stories. You are more than welcome to share to the group. By the way, he's in Hudson, Florida. So if you wanted to share your book or something in their group, they're in Hudson, Florida, American Ghost Stories.
Well,
thank you, Mike. That's awesome. I think it's also about community help. Like you said, promoting the book and being on social media trying to promote the book takes a lot of time. And then otherwise, if you went to venues and like, conventions to promote it, you've got to pay to be there and pay to have a table and pay to get there and all that stuff. So you're still putting money into promoting the book. But I think a lot of it has to do with like helping each other out and sharing things and doing stuff kind of like this, getting to network with people and get the word out there or the idea out there of having a book. I know sometimes it's hard, especially right now because more stuff's being done online than in person.
Yeah, that's true. It's a situation where if you had a TV program, you're probably millions of people are going to see that you have written a book or you can mention a book. I wrote the Hayes House Ghost for people too. And of course, it's available now only online. It's available at Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, Second and Charles, and Walmart. And there might be other places that it's available online. So if there's anyone interested in reading my book, check any online bookstore. It's no longer in the bookstores because I had to pay an annual fee to be able to distribute it to Barnes & Noble. And I don't know of any other bookstore that purchased it. So Barnes & Noble is the only one who was using it. And, of course, when COVID hit and the Barnes & Noble stores were closed to walk-in customers, they sent my book back because the fee that I pay the publisher more or less had a guarantee that the publisher could send the book back if it didn't sell. So when COVID hit, all the Barnes & Nobles sent my book back. So it was like an avalanche of returns.
That's
so
sad.
I did away with that. I did away with the fee to distribute it to bookstores.
Yeah, I could see doing that. Go ahead.
Have you ever tried selling it to half price books? Because they usually will accept any type of books.
No, to get the book low enough that I could make any type of profit, I probably have to buy about $10,000 worth. And right now, $10,000 worth is just not something that I want to do. Plus, you got to pay for traveling. If you go to all the paranormal events, sure, you're going to meet a lot of paranormal people, but at the same time, you're out the cost of traveling, flying, motel, rental car. So you might sell a couple hundred, but it might cost you more than that to go. So if you just do it once a year, like a vacation, and I'd rather spend my money traveling, doing paranormal research, because that's the fun part. That's the reason why I wanted a publisher that would help distribute the book. So, and sales definitely went down when COVID came around, because a lot of stores were closed and a lot of stores that reopened were only allowing people to come to the front door, and they were making purchases with their credit card, like by a phone, and then they could come to the front door and they'd hand it to them. So that took place for a while. So I'm glad I went ahead and stopped paying the fee to have it distributed to the bookstore. And the fee to have it distributed to bookstores like Barnes & Noble, it was like $400 a year.
Wow.
That's quite a bit during the times that we've been going through.
And do you feel like after you wrote it and you had it all done, did you feel like oh, okay, I feel so much better that I wrote it, that I have it out? Kind of like
actually,
my life goal.
Once it was published, I was very satisfied with the book. If anything, I was disappointed that most people didn't love it as much as I did. And I found out that most people in the paranormal field would rather spend their time and money actually doing paranormal research than to read someone else's material. So you'd almost have to find someone who's not interested in the paranormal, who reads the book and thinks, hey, this is a great book. And I do have a lot of people that read it and love it. It's just that most paranormal people, it's like, why watch someone else be in a play when you can be the actor yourself and be part of the play? And that's the way it is with the book sales and the paranormal.
I actually have a no, I do have a small problem of buying paranormal books, and I have been trying to slow down on buying some.
Did you say you don't read much?
No, well, no, I've bought so many books of the paranormal, ghost books and all that stuff, that in my apartment they're gathering up. So I've been trying to slow down on buying those kind of books.
So you haven't had time to read them all yet?
Right. Not the whole way through, but most of them I go through some of the chapters, and then I find like another one.
I buy more books than I read, but I do intend to read them all. Okay. By the time
that's me too. I literally have a whole bunch of books. Well, it's too bad I can't show because it's right behind the green screen. But I got a whole bunch some of which I got back from my high school days. I still haven't read them. They're all paranormal books, but it's just hard to always keep a schedule to really try to read all these books at once.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone purchases my book, The Hayes House Ghost for People 2, each chapter is like a mini book. Each chapter, the first chapter is just about the Buck family, because I didn't know how the Buck family used the house. But I know how the Hayes family used the house because their two daughters are still alive, and I was able to interview them about how, like what bedroom was Pat and Kathleen's bedroom. So I knew enough so that starting with the second chapter, each chapter is in chronological order as to how I completed paranormal research. So chapter 2 is the first room that I did paranormal research in, and that's the den. So if you do read my book and you don't have time to sit down and read 430 pages, read a chapter and stop. And it's like a mini book because it starts out pretty much giving you the background history on the Hayes family. So you can compare the paranormal data that I received from my Obelisk 5B and, the thermal imager and the Melmeter, and you can compare that to the history to see if it relates to the person that used that bedroom. So, and then after that, I do at least 2 1-hour paranormal sessions in each room where I pretty much sit down in the middle of the room like I'm having a conversation with you all now. And
Nick disappeared.
I do it like it's a court transcript where you do everything. I took copious notes during the paranormal research and after the paranormal research because a lot of times I had my own shorthand since I don't know shorthand. And then I would go back and add full words. And then at the very end, I do my analysis of what data I received. So if you can read one chapter at a time and finish that, it's almost like 21 chapters, 21 mini books. So if anything, that'll help someone to say, okay, I'll give this book a try. Because I realize most people don't have time to read a 430-page book. But if each book is treated like a mini chapter, a mini book, then it won't take you long to read each chapter as you get time.
That's a very good idea. I think the longest book I've ever read was the Da Vinci Code.
How many pages?
I totally forgot. It's been like 12, 15 years ago that I read it.
I see.
I mean, it was a long book, but like I said, I think that was the longest book I've ever read.
Mike said he would love to have us to go live on American Ghost Stories sometime. If you wanted to do a live on there, maybe.
Everything I do is real. It's not really a story. So, a story usually has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I would say my paranormal is a little different than that because sometimes you might do paranormal research and not even know what they're talking about, because sometimes the ghosts and spirits have their own agenda, want to talk about what they want to talk about, and they just ignore your questions. And it could be the person you want to talk to that day might not even come into the room to talk to you. They might be elsewhere. So it's hard for me to really tell a story about each chapter. It would just be very hard. I mean, I can talk about the overview of the book like we're doing an interview here, or I can take questions. But there's a lot of detail in each chapter. And tell you the truth, I don't have each chapter memorized.
What is wrong with you? You don't have 400 and something pages memorized?
That's
You're
not
just,
bad.
You're just not. No, I guess not everybody's Einstein, huh?
Well, I will say one thing. Probably if you buy the book and you don't have time to read it, I think the chapter that's entitled Pat and Kathleen's Room is probably one of the best chapters because when this happened, I was using my thermal imager and I saw everything was normal, room temperature. And then I saw a long blue, almost like line in the corner of the southeast corner of the room. And I thought, what caused that? Is there a pipe behind there and someone might be upstairs taking a shower since they had bed and breakfast rooms and they also had an apartment on the 3rd floor where a person lived and people came in and out all the time. It was hard to do any type of paranormal, research without someone being in the area. So And then I turned around to compare the northwest corner of the room to see if it was blue, and it wasn't, but it was undulating, almost like head and torso of 3 to 2, I think, ladies, and I think it was, I think Pat was in the southeast corner. He was tall and slim, very slim. He was like 6'3" with like a 28-inch waist when he was younger. I think he gained a little bit of weight before he passed away. And then in the northwest corner, I think that was a combination of his wife, Kathleen, and his mother, Annie, and her sister, Sunshine. And it was like an undulating blue. The third person would kind of like be there and then would fade away to like pink again. Or the room overall was probably, I don't know, 60 or 70 degrees. I think it was wintertime in Florida when I did that room. And then it would come back a darker blue, but it almost looked like a silhouette, 3 silhouettes to 2 silhouettes. And I think that was Sunshine, Annie, and Kathleen Hayes. And of course, Sunshine Gibson and Annie was Pat's mother. So I think that is the best chapter to read. I really felt like maybe they were ganging up on me and didn't want me to do paranormal research. So I was thinking, how do I take this? And I was kind of taking it towards they don't want me here, even though they didn't do anything to hurt me or wasn't aggressive. And after that day, I forgot all about it. Did not have any memory of it until I was working on the book. And I kept a notebook where I would write down like a transcript of everything that happened. So it's very intense when I do paranormal that way. I'd rather just film it and go back and look at the film and then write down, what happened or how I felt or what I saw, because sometimes the camera don't see it the way I saw it, And anyway, I feel that that room, Pat and Kathleen's room, is a chapter that most people should read if they don't have time to read the whole thing, because it was amazing. And I think they helped me to forget the event because they wanted me to stay and complete paranormal research in all the rooms at the Hayes house, which I did. So, and by forgetting it until I actually did the book, which I read more or less the transcript I had written down, that's what helped me to remember it. Had it not been for that transcript, it might have not been in the book because I may have not remembered it. So I think that was somewhat paranormal that they wanted me to forget what I was drawing conclusions was a bad situation. And I don't think it was. I think they were coming to meet me, to greet me. I think all 4 of them. And I just mistook it. And most people in the paranormal field always think it's something negative. But in this case, it was actually a positive.
I think it's out of fear usually or anxiety of it being unfamiliar. That's why they automatically resort to like their fear emotion, and then they think that it might be negative. But I was actually thinking like maybe they were looking at you like little kids look at like something in class, like, hey, I brought this toy, and they all gather around looking at it because you were kind of like an experiment because they're not in an adult or in a human body anymore. And maybe they were like, oh my gosh, there's a person in here, and they were just like gathering around you to look at you like you were something like, like fascinating.
Well, I think they were like coming to greet me the way the guest or the host would come to greet you during Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner. They were just all coming to greet me. And I mistook it. I really like the ghosts and spirits to want me there. I want them to be participating because they want to, not because I'm asking questions and invading their territory. And I usually tell them what I'm going to use the book for, I know a lot of ghosts and spirits think that it's repetitious and they already know what I'm going to use the book for, either social media or a book. And most ghosts will tell me something to that amount, like, oh, it's a script. Like you keep saying that same thing over and over. But you never know. If a new ghost comes along, they might not want to talk if I don't level with them how it's going to be used. And, if a ghost or spirit don't want to be on in a book or they don't want to be on social media, I let them know right up front so they can just not manipulate any of my equipment.
And I think that's
Go ahead.
and I think that's pretty smart to do, to talk to them in that way. Just to have an intelligent conversation with them, just so that later on while you're there, if they do decide, hey, I do want to be on, hey, look at me, or something like that, like, hey, don't forget about me,
Well, I think every ghost would like to get at least messages out to people, or maybe they don't even care to talk to me, but they might want to get a message out that maybe a relative could hear, and they're just using me as a vessel to do that. So I understand that ghosts and spirits have their own agenda, and they might ignore my questions and just say something that they're hoping a relative would hear. So if anyone, looks at any of my paranormal data and sees something, it might be a relative talking to them. Because sometimes I'll just say, well, this has nothing to do with the questions that I've asked, and I don't know why a ghost or spirit would say that. So.
Oh, yeah, we get random answers all the time, but you know what's strange is if you record that data or you're doing a live and you go back and watch it, I actually usually try to have someone there to write it down. What's strange is we've actually had before where we were doing a spirit box session at a place that was called the Fee House, and it's in Little Rock, Arkansas. And the questions that Jason was asking, I couldn't hear him, but my answers, some of them matched up with what he was asking, and some of them had nothing to do with what he was asking. But the owner of the house was in the room, and some of the questions or the answers I got directly related to something that was on the mind of the owner of the house. And I thought that was kind of neat.
Right.
Oh, that's pretty
Well,
cool.
one day at the Hayes house, I was doing paranormal research, and I think, if I remember correctly, it was in Patsy's room, and I got the word paint. So the owner was there at the time. The owner lived in Atlanta, but she was there visiting the house. And I asked her, I said, I got the word paint. And I said, that doesn't relate to any of the questions that the ghost or spirit that I was asking the ghost or spirit. And she just got a big grin on her face. And she says, I'm having the maintenance man paint the dining room on the first floor. And I didn't know that. So a lot of times the ghosts and spirits, they no longer have a biological brain. They know what's going on as they see it. But sometimes I'm not sure if they have that much of a memory, just being electromagnetic energy. Mm-hmm. And I think, if anything, they remember emotion. Because one time I was talking to Pat Hayes, the owner of the Hayes house, and I was in the TV room, and I asked Pat, I said, what do you think about the depression? And he said, anger. I think it was 2 words, but it was something like, it made me angry, or that's the way I draw the conclusion. So it seems like emotion a ghost or spirits can remember more so than dates or places. Like you ask a ghost or spirit where they were born, rarely get an answer. You ask a ghost or spirit what year were they born, I rarely get an answer. So if you ask them something about emotion, they're more apt to get an answer.
And that's pretty interesting how you said that they may not remember some stuff, but there's always those stories about a whether it's someone that's loved someone who has lost a loved one, and maybe like a few days later, something randomly pops up that makes them think of that person that was lost. And it could have been something that they never seen before, or that doesn't happen often. And maybe that person that was that passed away uh, did something to where that person was able to see that object or thing to make them think of that person.
That's a
That type of
possibility.
Yeah, I kind of feel like what you said is pretty true because I've read a lot and heard a lot that spirits, they, when they stay here on this plane, that they stay somewhere that they felt the most happy or comfortable, like that they felt the best time of their life when they were here on Earth, that they go back to whatever that place was. Like, even if you think about residuals, a lot of the time, a residual is like a repeating of something, and I feel like maybe it was like a good time in their life, and they're just repeating that, like they're on a tape loop of that.
Yeah, I was going to comment. I mean, it's typical for certain, hauntings like that of a particular location because, like, and I probably have said this before on a different show. If you look at some like the especially old historical locations that have a reputation for hauntings, that may be like, if there was like a neighborhood and there was all these houses that have been built, over the last couple of years, and there's just that one location, that would pretty much be like the only reminder of their past, what they remember in their lifetime. So again, it kind of has that partial, like you guys said, kind of like repeating cycle, but only to confined to that location because everything else may have changed over the last century.
Mm-hmm.
I think ghosts and spirits will go back to the place that they love, the place that they enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think they would do their best to, for instance, get my attention to write a book about it and to get the next owner's attention so that they buy it and keep it original. Now, after I wrote the book, I think it was February of 2019, the new owner changed a lot and tore out a lot of the original wood. So I think if a ghost or spirit doesn't recognize it as their home, they may stop spending as much time there, or they might go to the parts of the home that were original when they lived there. So I was kind of sad to see that. And I didn't know that the new owner was going to do all that. I just knew he was going to make it into like a bed and breakfast and add bathrooms to each room because there's only like 2 common bathrooms on the second floor and 1 on the first floor. So one time I was just at home and I was doing paranormal research and I just said, Kathleen, how are you doing? And I got the words, it's hell. And I didn't even take a photo of it because I thought it was just a random ghost cussing. And then about 2 or 3 days after that, one of my fans had done work in the Hayes house, and he had sent me photos of the second floor. And he was like standing on the southeast corner, taking a picture across to the northwest corner, and everything on the interior was just torn out. So I think that was Kathleen, and I think she was saying it's hell. So if you get a cuss word, don't be a dummy like me and disregard it. If someone is upset, it might be a close friend, like I consider all the ghosts and spirits at the Hayes house. And I wasn't there for her when she was telling me about what she was going through. When she said it's hell, I should have took the time to pay attention and figure out who it was instead of getting upset and saying, oh, we don't allow cussing. I'm going to end this right now. And I did. And I regret that because I think I was wrong.
Yeah, maybe asking what they're talking about and calling, what they're describing as that, like what they're feeling at that moment. Why are they saying that, I guess?
That's what I should have did, but I didn't.
that
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
hey, that talking about how you brought up that someone will do something to a property that a ghost maybe had loved, and that makes me think like that maybe some of that wood or some of that whatever came from the house was moved somewhere, and maybe wherever it was moved to, maybe that area is now haunted because that ghost is attached to that wood or that flooring, or maybe a couch that was in there, and
Well,
that
I think if I love to go to the beach, one could say that I'm attached to the beach. You know, if I love my future wife, someone might say I'm attached to my wife. So I think it's just what you love. You go back to where you lived, where you felt comfortable, where you called home. And if it's changed too much, it won't look the same. For instance, at the Hayes house, they closed off the second floor porch, which was a small porch, but it's closed off. And now apparently the porch may go to one of the front rooms. So it used to be a walk-through center hallway that allowed light in from the front and the back of the house. So if you change something that much, you're probably going to lose some contact with the ghosts of spirits that loved it. And when it comes to residual energy, I think residual energy is the environment, and the house and the wood in the house is part of the environment. Somehow the environment absorbs a memory, almost like when we take a video or a photo of something. I think the environment can do that. And sometimes when they play it back, we consider it to be residual energy, and it won't interact with us. It just does what it does. And at the Hayes house, I lived there for about 3 months after Hurricane Michael, starting in late October 2018 to about the end of February 2019. And at night, I would hear someone running up the steps. And, there was no one running up the steps, but you would hear it plain as day. And I asked the Hayes family, was there some event or tragic event where someone ran up the steps? And they said no. The steps, when Kathleen lived there, she lived there from like 1942 until she went into assisted living center and sold the house in 1996, over 50 years. And she had like carpet tacked on, pieces of carpet tacked on to the center of the steps where most people walk. And you can look at the steps when I wrote the book and see that the step in the center was definitely in better shape and had not been worn like the steps off to the side. And they were a different color than the steps off to the side because they hadn't had the light and all on them for years. So, and I was told that when they lived there, you couldn't stomp going up the steps. That padding kept that down. That way, when you walked up the steps, you didn't wake anyone up if they were still asleep.
Oh yeah, I was thinking to keep from falling. But that would make a lot of sense too, to be more quiet too. Hey, Chrissy.
Right. Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I was hearing. I don't know. I knew I was hearing someone running up the steps, and it wouldn't be all the steps. It would just be like 3 or 4. You'd hear stomp, 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 stomp. And it was a situation where I don't know what event took place. It could have been the house that was there before 1908. Apparently, there was a large fire that started at the Methodist Church that, or at least the barn behind the Methodist Church where Pat and Kathleen went to. They were members of the Methodist Church in Apalachicola. And a fire started in the area behind the church, and it moved east and burnt down just about all the wooden buildings in town. So maybe that's the reason why where the Hayes house was built in 1908, maybe it's a vacant lot because whatever was there burnt down. So maybe that's the only tragic thing I could think of, and maybe that's the reason why you heard running up the steps or down the steps maybe. But it always sounded to me like it was coming closer, like they were running up.
Was it like fast, slow, or like?
Fast.
Loud, fast.
Yeah,
What if it
because
was a
it
kid?
was like running or walking.
Not walking. I would say fast. It was tap, tap,
It was
tap, tap, tap,
running,
running.
Yeah. Did you have any candy in your pocket? No, I'm just kidding. We use candy.
Most of the time that I heard it, it was usually late at night when I was getting ready to go to sleep. Because when I was living there, there was another family living on the second floor. I had the third floor apartment. And there was also, let me see, three or four bed and breakfast rooms. So
Oh,
people going and coming, and you didn't know who was who, and you didn't know when they'd be coming. So it could have been a person who was coming there for the bed and breakfast, and in the morning when I didn't see anyone new there, maybe they just didn't stay. I don't know.
oh yeah, like coming to check it out, and they had been thinking about staying there or something. They were just looking around.
Well, they had to have some way of getting in. So if they weren't a person there to rent a bed and breakfast and had already paid and got, the code or the key to get in, then it might have been someone who had a key from in the past who shouldn't have been in. So, it wasn't like I was standing there, looking at the steps, and there would always be at least 3 or 4 quick steps that were loud. So even if I got up and got dressed and went down to the second floor to look at the steps, it was over by the time I could get out of bed.
Yeah, if it happened repeatedly, I feel like it was probably, if you didn't see anybody there, it was probably something unexplainable.
I think it was residual energy. And, of course, at the time it was happening, I wasn't on the second floor to look at the steps. I was always in bed, maybe not asleep yet, but in bed on the third floor apartment. So I would say it was probably residual energy because it happened, I'd say at least 3 or 4 times during the period that I was there. And I guess I was there about 4 months.
Have you ever heard of anybody else, like while you were there, have you ever heard of anybody else like living there? And then, like, the next day, you heard, like, somebody say, oh, that family moved out because they got scared or something like that.
No, but I have had people email me. Not email, text message me. And I didn't remember their names, but they said that they had lived at the Hayes house. Off and on, it's been like a boarding house or a bed and breakfast, depending on who owned it. And they said that they knew they weren't alone. And that was their way of, I took it that they knew there was, ghosts of spirits there. Yeah. But I've been contacted by a few people, and I even was contacted by a person that was working there. And he said as he come in the front door, it felt like someone pushed him from behind. But he didn't fall, but he could feel it. So, and he was there during the renovation. So maybe that was Kathleen saying, I don't want you to renovate my house.
Or probably somebody so. Saying, why don't you stay a while? Go inside.
Probably.
I guess how you perceive it, maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like ghosts, unless they're really like angry or miserable, I feel like they're probably lonely. So they'd probably take any chance as long as the person that's coming to visit them isn't like a terrible person. They'd probably like any company they could get. I think I would. Anyways, if I was just stuck in a house by myself, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really quick. I was going to say, I would think that would be like Casper in Friendly Ghost. It's like, hey, come talk to me. Don't get scared. Come talk to me,
Yeah.
Well, there was only one known death at the Hayes house when the Hayes were living there. I don't know of anyone passing away when the Buck family lived there. And the Buck family was there from like 1908 to 1921. Then from 1921 until 1942, the house was used as like boarding rooms. People would rent a room, and then they would have a common bathroom at the end of the hall. So, I really feel that having that one death, I always thought that the running up the steps might have been when people found out that Sunshine Gibson had passed away, because apparently she died at home and she died in her bedroom.
Yeah,
So,
upstairs.
but I was assured by the two daughters that are still living and their family that padding that their mother had on the steps, even if you ran up, you couldn't hear stomping. So anyway,
Another question: what was the land used for before the home was built?
that I don't know. I can only assume that it was downtown, what I call downtown Apalachicola, and it was in the middle of the uh, business area, and they had a lot of shipping going on with boats coming in, and I had the feeling the land was used for something, but I don't know for sure whether it was a house or a business or what.
Yeah,
That was a good question.
When
yeah, that's a good question.
when was the Hayes House built again?
What was it?
No, I was asking when was the Hayes House built again? I'm trying to remember because I remember you mentioned it before. What year was it built?
1908. And I
1908.
see I think it's Chrissy says, well, that could tie into the activity as
Yeah.
well. And yes,
Yeah.
it could. Whatever was there on the property prior, that might be when the house burnt down, somebody was running up the steps. I don't know if the house burnt down, but they said that across the street was a large motel and it burnt, totally
Okay.
destroyed. And they
Oh,
said
wow.
most of the wooden buildings on what I call Main Street were destroyed too. So there's a possibility that whatever was on that property prior to 1908 burnt during the 1900 fire.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. See, that's like I was mentioning. That was like what I mentioned before. Was even prior to the construction of the property, what else could have been original to the structure prior to it? And again, could it be a distant memory of theirs? So it's just not confirmed, but just an idea.
And I don't know. To the best of my knowledge, when the Buck family built the house, apparently it was a vacant lot. So, and he owned a mill that got the old growth lumber. So he was able to put the best lumber into the Hayes house. And the Hayes house, and when I did my research, it was 80 to 90% original. It wasn't really fancy, but it did have nice wood in it. And when Pat and Kathleen moved in, all the walls had the horizontal, original tongue and groove wall wood, and it was dark color. And Kathleen wanted to lighten up the dark color, and she went ahead and painted everything. She even painted the decorative wooden fireplace mantles, which is the one thing that's decorative in the house. And she painted it white. But after she passed away, the next owner went ahead and stripped the white off and removed at least some of the surface. And then the fireplace mantles were lighter in color. They weren't so dark.
Did you say, I don't know if you already said this, what city is that house in or what state?
Florida.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember in Florida. I just can't remember what town it was.
You talking
Which
about
one?
Apalachicola, where the Hayes house is?
Apalachicola?
Apalachicola.
Okay.
Apalachicola.
I was trying to see if that sounded like a French name or a Native American place or something like that.
Native American.
Yeah, it sounds Native American. Chrissy makes a good comment here. Think about the accidents that happened at sawmills, especially in that era. It could also tie to the materials used to build it as well.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard of that happening.
Yeah, we have a town like that down.
Possibility.
We got a town like that down in southern Illinois where it's the town of Alton, and they call it one of the most haunted small towns in America. Well, there's a reason for it. You know, parts of the building of those buildings was from a former building, and they kind of spread it out through the entire town using that same type of material.
Apalachicola.
Oh, you're looking it up?
There's another Hayes house too, though. It's in Kansas.
Yeah, remember I know there's a town called Hayes, Kansas. Yeah.
Yeah, is there?
There is. Town. I'm actually looking it up just to be sure. That's in Ellis County, Kansas, which is that's. I don't think it's too far from Salina. It's still kind of in north central Kansas.
There's at least 3 or 4 Hayes house. Some of them are just Hayes, Hay, and some of them are Hayes.
Yeah,
But the Hayes house in Apalachicola is spelled Hays.
Right.
Yeah, I was just asking because you had said that Apalachicola or whatever, and I thought it sounded Native American. And I was wondering, if that could have tied some of activity to the house, like what that Apalachicola or whatever tribe or something maybe that had lived there, or campgrounds or something.
Yeah, it could have been anyone that lived on that land in the past. I don't think the paranormal activity would definitely cease. If a Native American tribe lived there in the 1800s or 1700s or sometime before, it possibly could have been them. But I doubt if they would have steps to a second floor. But I guess if it wasn't residual energy and it was a, ghost or spirit, it might have been running or playing or using the steps, to just have fun. And at night when everyone's asleep, they're going to, go ahead and do what they want to do.
Yeah. I don't know. I always like to, I think this sounds crazy, and I probably say this all the time, but I'm always like, when people are talking about a property, I'm like, what's the Native American history there? But if you really think about it, in the United States, is there any state that didn't have Native American tribes, campgrounds, or movement? Probably not.
Well, I know our state does. Illinois had. We used to. Not anymore, sadly.
Hey Sydney.
Hey Sydney.
I just want to say, also talking about Native Americans, just how there's I guess that other kind of history where they talk about Vikings may have came over to America and landed here, I guess, and however long they stayed here, and so they might be some kind of Viking spirits here that are here somewhere, at some place, some point.
You're breaking up, so I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I was just talking about that there's that history of saying that there was Vikings that came over before Columbus and all them.
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I've read the same type history. So I don't think Columbus discovered America. Of course, it was here, and every inch of America was, covered and used by the Native Americans. So it'd be like me first seeing your show tonight and say, I discovered this show. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't dislike Columbus, but it's kind of conceited.
That's funny. Yeah, I like to also think about Vikings and because where I live at, this is Native American, country.
Right.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, and also there's actually a Runestone State Park near where I live, about an hour away from me, and there's a runestone there left by the Vikings, and you can go there and visit it, and they have some kind of Renaissance festival every year there. I was looking at stuff about. I still don't know how to say it. That place where the
Apalachicola. I could say it. I could say that for Apalachicola. It's pretty easy.
I learned to say it by saying apple, then latcha. Can you say apple? Then latcha, and then like Coca-Cola, cola. Latcha, cola. That's how I learned to say it. So,
that's a good way to break it down.
Apple.
if it wasn't broke down, I wouldn't be able to pronounce it. And I practice a lot because having the book, you have to.
Yeah.
So hello to Bridget A. Is it Connolly?
Connolly, maybe.
Yeah.
Possibly.
And Sydney and Chrissy and whoever else is watching that I can't see.
Yeah. I know Crystal's still watching, but hasn't said too much. I know she's probably just monitoring things.
Who?
So
Courtney?
people that call in are able to ask questions?
Yeah.
Is
Go ahead.
it?
Because I don't want to encourage them if they're not allowed to.
Oh,
yeah,
well, I
they
mean,
can answer questions, yeah. You
yeah.
guys wanna
Oh,
ask questions? Yeah.
Because if anyone has a question and you all can take it and type it up.
The last one, no Italian desserts here.
Connolly
So they didn't like my comment about Columbus.
or
A
cannoli?
lot of people don't like my comments.
No, I think when you said cannoli, she was saying it's Connolly.
Bridget, I thought it was Connolly.
And
Oh, that is a
cannoli,
dessert.
I think is an Italian thing.
I haven't ate that type of dessert too often.
Tiramisu. Tiramisu? Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. And Adam, you asked about the question, how many books have you written, Christy said? Or Chrissy?
Just the one. At this point in time, until the COVID virus is over and sales pick up, and I can do book signings. Book signings is the best thing to generate book sales. So until I can do that, I'm just not going to write another book. And I like to find a cheaper way to have it published so I don't have to put out so much money up front, because the more money you have to put up out front, the less books you can write, put it that way.
Now, I actually got a question myself. I mean, even though you've just written one, in case you ever want to, like, write another book or even just a few books, depending on what you think, would you ever consider, like, having them out for, like, if you ever were to ask to become part of a Paracon or something? Because I know some people sell their books at Paracons.
Well, like I said earlier, if I go into selling my books, that's going to eat up 1/3 of my time. Right now, I spend a lot of time on social media just trying to interact with my fan base and tell them about my my book, The Hayes House Goes for People Too, and also tell them about my YouTube channel, Paranormal Short Sessions by Keith Evans, and that's free. You don't have to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you buy my book, it's like $23.99 or $22.99. Some places you can get it cheaper. Amazon, it's usually $1 or $2 cheaper than, say, Books A Million or Barnes and Noble or Walmart.
A little cheaper.
So,
Right, yeah, usually Amazon.
Sometimes you don't get your shipment from Amazon. You have to wait a little bit longer.
yeah.
I'm just saying. I ordered a banner stand for Fear Fest, and they lost my order, and I had to order another one, and I'm praying to God it makes it here before I have to leave and go to campus.
Boy. That happened to me the other day, not with a banner, but something else I was going to bring to show you guys. It's a new idea for a paranormal tool, and it was only like a 2-day wait. It comes in, and all of a sudden, it's completely the wrong item. I still haven't gotten a new one, or I don't even know what's going on with it. So I'm in that same situation, Rosie.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to just build a banner stand out of some PVC pipe and some duct tape just so I know I have something to use to put my banner on when I go there. We had a question from Chrissy.
She wants to know how long I've been into the paranormal. I would say just about as long as I can remember. I remember back when I was 4 years old, I was always attracted to old homes and to decorative wood. And I think I didn't know it at the time, but as an empath, I was feeling the emotions of the ghosts of spirits, what they had enjoyed and what had given them satisfaction about their home and certain items in their home, like the decorative wood. And how many 4-year-olds pay attention to stuff like that? My parents thought I was a little loony, to tell you the truth.
Not very many.
I would just say, check out that wood. Isn't that beautiful? And how many 4-year-olds say that about a house?
Exactly.
And I always felt that way. Even as I got older, I just kept my mouth shut.
They probably would have said that if there was a merry-go-round in the backyard or a swing set.
Yeah, that would have been more appropriate. But even as a 4-year-old, I was like a little adult. I always enjoyed whatever the adults were talking about. I didn't want to do what the kids were doing. I just found that boring.
You wanted to be grown. Yeah, this is kind of like what Chris said. You should probably go to some of the bigger events, promote the books, bigger exposure and networking.
Well, in the future, right now with the publisher that I have, to get the cost down low enough, I'd have to spend $10,000. And I just can't afford to spend $10,000. I would have a lot of books, but I would get them down to where I would make a good profit. And just the cost of traveling, motel, and also rental car, I don't think I'd even break even. I may, but I just can't afford it right now. There's been too many things that have went wrong since I retired, and now I have a fixed income.
And you'd have to have a risk. You'd have to know for sure that you're not going to risk going somewhere and coronavirus interrupting the turnout that you're going to expect to be there as well. Right now, anyways.
Well, I certainly don't want to catch the COVID virus. I had kidney failure in January 1st, 2017. So since I have chronic kidney failure, it's probably to stay away from any virus that's killing so many people.
Right.
And when I had the kidney failure, even though I had 2 insurances, I was in the hospital about 45 days. So I racked up a lot of co-payments and other payments that I had to pay concerning deductibles. And I had every type of test known to man. They were testing me for everything because they didn't know what was wrong with me. And I even had chemotherapy to keep my specialized T cells of my white blood cells from attacking my damaged kidneys. Because a lot of times your white blood cells will attack a damaged organ. And since you need that organ, the chemotherapy will kind of realign the specialized T cells not to attack it, but at the same time, it's jolting your immune system, so it's not as strong.
Yeah.
So anyway, that costs money. The book costs money. It's about $3,000 to publish the book between 2 publishers. I started out with one publisher, and I did not like their service at all. So I was only able to get a half of a refund. So the second publisher did a better job, and that's the one I have. So that costs a lot of money. And let me see what else happened. Hurricane Michael. I lost everything I owned. I didn't own any real property, but everything else I lost. All my paranormal equipment, clothes, all my personal items, cameras.
Things have been taking away a lot of paranormal equipment, apparently.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is why I just don't have a whole lot of money to be going out and purchasing books to go to any type of paranormal festival. Now, if I could find a machine where I could publish my own books and I'd be able to afford the machine, operate the machine, make the books as I need them, I would do it. But that's going to be something in the future. I don't want to take any gambling chances now. It's just too risky. But that might be something I try to do in the future.
Yeah, it doesn't actually sound like a bad idea for anybody that wants to make more than one book, especially if you want to make multiple books,
Yes.
Yeah,
Christy has a question. Sending positive
yeah, just a comment.
vibes your way. Thank you, Christy. Thank you,
I
Christy.
wanted to share a piece of information I looked up because the reason I'd asked, I looked up Apalachicola tribe, Indians. Okay. Well, I live in Oklahoma, and I don't know why I was just like extremely astonished with this word, and I feel like sometimes there's a reason why. It says that tribe was a group of Native Americans related to the Muskogee people. I live right by Muskogee, Oklahoma, big capital of a lot of Native Americans here in Oklahoma. And they spoke Muskogean language related to the Hitchiti. They lived along the Apalachicola River in present-day Florida, and their name derives probably from the Hitchiti Apalachicola or the Muskogean Apalachicola tribes, and it means people of the other side. That sounds kind of
Oh,
paranormal and spiritual. People of the other side. It sounds
it
like
does. Big time.
spirit,
Yeah.
like spirits.
Well, I don't know if I got the word chief when I was doing paranormal research in the Hayes house, but in other places in Apalachicola, I would get the word chief, and I got it several times over probably a 2-year period. So I don't
Yeah.
know if somebody was calling me chief or whether they were telling me that they were a chief. But
It would be funny if they were calling you that because you were in the military or the army and they knew that and they were just like, listen here, chief.
yeah, I'm not sure. It's a possibility.
I just thought that was really cool. I'm probably going to actually copy and paste that comment underneath this comment section after the show just because I think that's really cool and I might want to come back and look at that. Yeah, I live close to Muskogee here, and Muskogee is a really big town in Oklahoma. One of my friends lives by there, and they have they even have buildings that have Bigfoot painted on the side of them. So does Tahlequah, Oklahoma, which is right next door to Muskogee. Of Tahlequah and Muskogee, the two of the biggest places in Oklahoma for Native Americans to live. And yeah, they have Bigfoots painted on the sides of buildings, and they really believe in Bigfoot and all kinds of stuff.
I do too.
Yeah.
And that was gonna be my question. What kind of like, besides like ghosts and stuff, like do you believe in aliens and Bigfoot?
Yes, I think it's all possible. I think a lot of the aliens' contact could be two forms. It could be kind of like remote control. You know how we have the telephone. The aliens, we might be seeing them because they send a hologram, and it might be a talking hologram. So they may not really be there, but somehow, they're able to communicate with us. And, space travel requires fast equipment. And most biological systems, it would smash your internal organs to go that fast and then come to a stop. Your body couldn't stand the forces that would be placed upon it. So I think that most of the paranormal activity that's taking place, if it's not our own government with some type of advanced equipment, it's probably a robot or some type of artificial life form that can come and visit us and check us out, do research on us, and then they can withstand the fast G-forces of their spacecraft that flies that fast.
Yeah,
Does that make sense to you all?
I have a lot of different theories too, yeah, and some of them are either the simulation or whatever, just to see kind of like how we would react to it. But I do know, like I know that their advanced technology is beyond humanity right now. Not everyone in the human race, but the general public, or most of the majority of the human race. But I do know that supposedly, I don't know if you've ever read about this, that when President Eisenhower was in office, that he was supposed to have made contact with extraterrestrials, and they offered to give him patents for technology to share with humanity, and that he told them that we couldn't accept that because we were not advanced enough to recreate that technology that they were sharing with us. So, however, it might be like we could recreate something like that, and it's not unfathomable that we could actually have some kind of transportation device that wouldn't make us turn into a puddle. We just don't want to accept and like evolve to that level, I guess. I don't know.
Yes, you'd have to have an aircraft that could overcome the moment of inertia, and so you're not squished when it speeds up very fast or slows down very fast.
Right.
Because if it slows down very fast, you're still moving forward. If it speeds up very fast, you're going to hit the back wall. So,
Right.
anyway,
And
that's a possibility. But I heard that when the aliens talked to President Eisenhower, that pretty much they took notes, and they say that's where a lot of their technology in the 60s came from, and 70s. I'm trying to think, what's the term for the glass within the wiring that does a reflection of the beam of light, or
like lasers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what they said, like lasers and like night vision and Kevlar. Supposedly that's where it came from. Because I heard
would be silicone wiring. I just can't think the name of it. But
right.
yeah, lasers also.
Yeah, because I've heard the same thing. Like they met with Eisenhower, they give Eisenhower and his people technology, and they gave permission to the aliens to abduct like some people, but they had to like in return they had to like give the names of people they took away, like the identities of the people.
General to that, or kind of along the lines of that too, or that they're allowed to come and go certain times or certain amount of time. Like they're not allowed to just come anytime that they want to. They're not allowed to just be here all the time. They're not allowed to threaten all of general population on the earth. I've heard several different things about like they have actually like an agreement of some kind.
Well, I think if they're that advanced, they could be here and just not be seen, kind of like a ghost or a spirit. They're only seen when they want to be seen.
I think that too, but I think that there's been a mass. I mean, I don't know how you feel about this or what you know or like believe about people's. You said you're empathic, so you have to believe a little bit. Like people's connection, their level of connection has risen as far as like psychic abilities and mediums and empaths, clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairaudience, and all of that. I think they have grown a lot in the last several years, and I think that we feel things coming into our atmosphere more now, and it's opened up more in the last several years, obviously, since we're talking about this, you know. Like it's opened up in the last several years more, and there has become more of a, like when I do tarot card readings, this is just an example. I'm connecting to something, and I know that it's not bad. I can't tell you that it's always like an archangel, or if it's God, or if it's a loved one that passed away. Sometimes I believe that it's actually something that's an extraterrestrial being or a celestial being that does not think like humans think. And I think that that happens because they're allowing us to do that, because sometimes I don't know why. I don't know what the agreement would be that they would have made with a human here or a leader. But I think that they actually sometimes they warn us and they tell us things, like they warn us when there's going to be a hurricane. They warn us when there's going to be earthquakes and volcanic eruptions and storms and tornadoes. I think that they can do that, and I think that they do sometimes.
Well, you know, I guess in November of 2020, I was doing a paranormal session at what I call the little park. And I got the name Ida, and that was a hurricane that came this year.
That's right.
So I don't know if there's a connection or not. At the time, I didn't have any connection to the name Ida. Now, I had an aunt, but a great aunt, but her name is Ada, A-D-A. So I don't know what the connection would be to Ida, but I think during that period of time, I got 4 or 5 names. And I don't think the rest of them were hurricanes, unless they're future hurricanes. So
Yeah. I don't really connect in that way. I usually see a lot of patterns, a lot of synchronicities, a lot of numbers, or I end up being somewhere that I haven't seen it since I've been alive, but I've like dreamed about it, or that I'm having like, I guess like a memory of being there, but I've never actually really been there, or like a deja vu, or like a whatever you want to call it, like a past life memory or a future, like whatever you want to call it, like stuff like that has happened to me a lot more this last year since we've been dealing with having to be inside more and hermit mode more and less, socially out and about.
it's a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like I don't guess I really knew like anything about a hurricane, but I have felt mostly like more of a spiritual warfare going on, like a more strong presence and actions that I can see that, like they always say, spiritual warfare is going on all the time, but it seems more present lately.
Yep.
I haven't noticed much difference.
Have you not? Yeah, I
And
probably pay too much attention to everything.
I always felt like recently, I've always felt like for this time period for us humans, I think either something really really bad is gonna happen to us, all of us, or something really really interesting is gonna happen to us. Whether it's that time where we meet aliens or something like a zombie apocalypse. I always think it's like something like that's gonna happen here soon.
What about you, Nick? You don't talk about aliens very much. You talk about cryptids and Bigfoot, but I haven't
No,
heard you say a lot about aliens.
no, I've actually, oh, believe it or not, I've actually done a lot of, I mean, yeah, it's mostly cryptids, but I also do a lot of alien research too. So I think
Yeah.
a lot of it, yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. um, Man, it's like, I definitely think that there's just been a lot more to it now. Like, because, we've been hearing all this stuff now about, like, for example, like, the government's been releasing all these files on the UFOs and a lot of these extraterrestrial encounters. So, in my opinion, it's obviously becoming a lot more accepted, and we're starting to see more and more of these type of reports and the connections that have gone out over the years. It's almost like it's finally putting some pieces of the puzzle together. Like some of the stuff we've been waiting for decades to know of answers. Like in a paranormal sense, is this like haunted house case or is this an extraterrestrial case? And it seems like we're starting to see a lot more of it becoming more extraterrestrial in nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or not just spiritual only, not like just your random haunt or your average haunt that you usually would have to be visiting for, something that's beyond that.
Yeah, and think about, excuse me, think about too. I mean, and this is usually something I don't always look all the time for as evidence, but like look at all the orb photos that are sometimes taken outside. I mean, yes, most of them can be debunked, absolutely. But some of those orbs, if you see them up in the sky, there have been times where sometimes people have seen UFOs as just bright orbs.
Yeah. I want to ask y'all another question, all of y'all. Like, do y'all think like the more releasing of this evidence has been there all along and it's just been hidden and they're doing it and it's actually real, or do you think that they're doing it to try to create a diversion from something else that's actually going on so people won't pay attention?
Could be a little of each.
I feel like I feel like I feel like something's gonna happen to where it involves aliens. It involves aliens, and I feel like the government is letting all these little things be known to the public because I feel like they're saying about us, the general public, like saying, what's the use of them knowing about these little things when what's on the way is going to matter much more than these little things?
Yeah.
Did y'all get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, it's like it won't matter in the future if we know about these little, little things like that. That's not what I feel.
That's how I feel with them building a wall and trying to segregate a specific race. And I'm like, you're probably just making the aliens more mad.
Exactly.
We do stuff like that because
It's like you're not only just making the residents of Earth mad, you're making residents of other planets and
It
galaxies mad too.
my
Like that's
daughter
almost like
said,
they're thinking, well, if they're built, they might be thinking when you think about it in a funny kind of way, they might be thinking by building this wall. They might be thinking they might be building a wall all the way up to Earth's gravity. Like you can't get past there at all. They're starting it. It's going to take a couple years.
Keep them all there. Don't let them come out. Keep them in a room.
But I guess to answer,
we already have enough segregation. I don't think we need to create more segregation all the time. I mean, I might sound like a dumb hippie to a lot of people, but I just feel like as a human, we're gonna live and we're gonna die, and
yeah,
we're gonna do what we do while we're here. I just don't feel like that's a purpose.
yeah.
I'm not trying to be biblical. I don't feel like that's the purpose here. Like that is not, as a human race, our purpose is not to segregate each other. I just don't think it is.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
people
I
have
want
to
to
agree with me.
answer. Sorry, Rosie. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, no one has to agree with me. I'm just putting that disclaimer out there. No one has to agree with me. I respect people's right to disagree with what I say all the time. That's fine.
Well, I think to answer this question like the next one you just answered, Rosie. I mean, from my opinion is, I remember, and I'm fortunate to have found this on YouTube. Thank God, someone uploaded this. But I remembered somebody. This was probably back in. I don't know if you guys ever remembered that show, Weird Travels. It was on the Travel Channel. This was during the pre-Ghost Adventures era. Do you guys remember that show?
Yep.
Weird Travels. Yeah, there was one episode that they were dealing with aliens and UFOs, and there was one guy. And again, this was back in 2005, and there was one guy researcher that they were speaking to. He was actually from someone from Mexico, because they were doing a segment on UFO reports and alien encounters down in Mexico, and he believed that at some point that the public was ready to finally accept the fact that there's definitely something out there, and that he said that sometime in the very near future, and probably involving the government, that they're going to release something finally once and for all, that there is something going on that's extraterrestrial. I will admit, I mean, that was over 15 years ago that he made that comments. Well, now here we are over 15 years later in 2021, and now all of a sudden a lot of this information is finally being released. So he really kind of did in some way kind of predict, what could eventually happen. I don't know if he was just talking about his own country of Mexico, or if this was just going to be a worldwide event, but he predicted it in some way.
Yeah. Are you still there with us, Keith?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of broken up. I'm not hearing what's being said. I think the last 3 times that you spoke, it was gargly. And it's saying that something about the connection went out briefly. I don't know. But, so I don't know. I'm seeing a good picture. It's just that whenever a person starts to talk like Nick, then it's hard to hear. As long as he is in the small block, then the voice comes through. But as soon as the person goes to the big block, the sound is just gargly.
That's strange. Does that help? Like if you're right here and you can hear me talk better?
Yeah, definitely. I can hear you, everything. It wasn't gargly.
Kind
So
of
I
like
don't know
with
what
Jason
he's
the
doing
other
there.
day, where if I muted, Jason could be heard better, but when I unmuted, it sounded like he was heard less.
Bridget makes a good comment here. I find it impossible we can be the only planet in the whole galaxy that is inhabited or universe. She's absolutely right. I mean, that's kind of like what, as I was saying, this guy was 15 years ago was trying to say that, you know, one day we would finally learn once and for all of the fact that we're not alone.
Yeah, I hope so before I pass away, but if not, I hope, at least maybe my children or my grandchildren do.
I hope so too. Hey, you know what they say with the X-Files is the truth is out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that show.
Yeah, I
Keith,
feel that. I
go
feel
ahead.
that with all the planets that there are in the universe, there's got to be life out there. It may not be just like us, but it's out there.
And probably been around longer than us too. I mean, you look at
Yes.
some like the ancient paintings, like even some of the paintings, like, you know, involving the early Christianity. They sometimes are like objects in the sky that happen to show up. So it's like it's probably been going, stuff like that has probably gone on forever, probably longer than us.
Yes, I think so.
Do you want to tell anyone that watches or does a replay on this where they can purchase a copy of your book?
My book is only available online at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million, Second and Charles, and Walmart. And check around. It may be available at other places also, but only online because as an independent publisher, I stopped paying to have it distributed to, the bookstore in person. I just got to be too expensive. So you got to buy it online.
And it's the
And
Hayes
also,
House Ghosts for People too.
the Hayes House goes for people too. It's about a house in Apalachicola, Florida, built in 1908. And I also have a website on YouTube, and it's called Paranormal Short Sessions by Keith Evans.
Paranormal Short Sessions.
Yes, most of my paranormal sessions are not the whole paranormal time. It's only bits and pieces of the paranormal time. And, most of your paranormal time, you're not getting anything. Sometimes I put it all in, but I usually keep my paranormal sessions short because most ghosts and spirits run out of energy as far as the Obelisk 5B goes. And then you're dealing with new ghosts or spirits that have arrived. And of course, they change the conversation altogether.
I wanted to put this information on there before we close the show out. That way people know where to find your materials.
Sounds good. And YouTube is totally free. It don't cost you anything to subscribe to YouTube. I didn't know that because I first got on YouTube May of 2020. And when I first got on, it wouldn't even let me name my YouTube channel. And everyone says they can start a YouTube channel and name it right away. But it wouldn't even let me name it. It was my name, Keith Evans. And there's a lot of Keith Evanses in the world.
I bet.
So it's very hard for anyone to find me.
Right. I did subscribe to your YouTube channel, speaking of which, Keith.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Nick.
And I will also.
Thank you.
And hopefully everybody that watches the show will. And we just want to put out there that myself, Adam, and Nick will all be at the Temple Fairfax Paracon this weekend in Salina, Kansas at the Masonic Temple. Come see us, buy your tickets, and come to the event. You can do ghost hunting. You can participate in and enjoy Ana's psychic medium galleries. A lot of other people are going to be selling little devices that they've made, doing demonstrations. I think Greg and Ana are going to do like a spirit box, ghost box session in her in the room where she's doing her readings. They're going to do a special thing. Nick, what are you going to be doing there?
Yeah, I've been thinking it over lately. Actually, Jeremy and I were talking about this recently. Again, I'm still deciding. I'm going to make my final decision by tomorrow. I may actually just present, again, not selling anything, just putting them on display. My scary stories to tell in the dark book collection. Just really more of a, as I call, a booth of interest. It probably will bring back memories for people who grew up with the books, and then of course also presenting some of these other scary stories tribute books that have been made over the last couple of years, which again, not selling them, but might give people the idea of wanting to buy those books from the website. So I'm kind of helping out some of these other authors, illustrators, and these websites who've been selling them, because as far as I know, very few, not many of these guys go to these type of Paracons and shows. So I'm kind of doing them a favor.
Yeah. And I think people just like to come there and they like to pick people's brain. We're going to have guest speakers. They like to play with people's equipment and ask what it does. Look at evidence.
Keith, you should come out with us, Keith.
I can't afford it this year.
Yeah, maybe in the future when things get better.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
And your health is not as much at risk for going and doing it. Right?
Yeah, I don't drive long distances anymore because when I try to stand up, I can't straighten up. And usually if I drive more than an hour, either my legs or my arms fall asleep. And that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've had some back problems in the last year. Well, thank you for being on the show with us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Book purchases. I really do. I think that would be awesome if you get some book purchases. If we do any more conventions, I don't know if you have any to send or any to to sit up or whatever. But if I live closer to you, I'd take some of your books with me if you had some, and I'd take them to the Paracon and try to sell them. So.
I don't have any extra ones. If I would have to go online and buy them for $22.99.
But if you do get set up for that though in the future, post it on the Night Terror Collective page. And if we are in some conventions and things are, a little bit more in a better state in the future, like 2022, 2023, then share that knowledge or whatever, that information, and maybe you can join some place.
I would consider it for in the future. Who knows? I might get a TV show and then we'll have plenty of money.
Yeah. And then everyone will buy your book even if they don't want to read it just because it has your name on it.
Yeah. I don't have time to read it, but I'm going to buy it.
So they'll want your autograph for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being on tonight. We enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you.
And thank you, hosts, for being on.
Sure thing.
Everybody come to Fearfest Paracon. See you guys there. Bye.
3 days.
Bye,
Good
everybody.
Night.